Also reintroduce what our goals are as to a draft final report by December of this year, and then we'll get into the TBI and give them as much time as they need. As far as I'm
required in government buildings, according to the executive order.
Okay. That's a good question.
The August meeting of the Special Bombing Review Commission will come to order. Let's begin our meeting with an invocation by Captain Oliver.
Everybody bow their heads. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, creator of all heaven and earth, we come to you today thanking you for this day. We ask that you be with us as we go through and do this work for which we've been called. We ask that we'll be gaining grace, wisdom, and discernment in all these things, Father God, to serve the greater good of the Nashville community, and that we'll learn a lot of lessons that will be beneficial because of the work in which we've been commissioned to do. I thank you once again, and I bless you. It's in the mighty name of Jesus Christ we do ask these things. Amen.
Amen. Let's please repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Do I have a motion that we approve the minutes? They strike that the agenda? Move. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The agenda is approved. By now you have had an opportunity to review the excellent minutes by our Madam Secretary Quinn for the July 2021 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, do I have a motion that the minutes of the July 2021 meeting be approved as submitted? Second?
Second.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. They are approved. The next item on the agenda after the introduction of guests will be the leadership of the various committees. I can't tell you how gratified I am about the hard work and diligent application of all the folks on this commission. You're working hard. I think everybody understands our goals. I tried to break up the three committees, the Criminal Investigation Committee, the Bombing and Responses Committee, and the Lessons Learned Committee in such a manner that everybody is doing hopefully about the same amount of work. And we're also capitalizing on the expertise of various people who are on the commission. Our goal is for the first two committees, the Criminal Investigation Committee and the Bombing Response Committee, to submit rolling reports to the third committee. And the third committee would then give us a draft report of the final report by December of 2021. So, after the first committee, for example, the Criminal Investigations Committee, after they've decided that that an after-action report is complete, then they need to submit it to the third committee. And then the third committee would have another set of eyes on it. And if they decided, well, we would like to hear from Joseph Jones, they can then decide whether they want to interview Joseph Jones themselves or whether they need the commission's help and subpoenaing Joseph Jones. Doubt that's going to happen, but at any rate. So we'll have two eyes before they get to the when they get to the Lessons Learned Committee, and then the Lessons Learned Committee can incorporate that after action report into the final report. Our goal is to have our action after report. Our goal is to have the final report back to the Metro Council no later than April of 2021. Now, I picked April of 2021 because I did read the resolution and it said it needs to be submitted within the first meeting. And my lawyers advised me that our first meeting really wasn't until April of 2021. I meant 2022 is when we're going to submit it. So I'm giving ourselves one more month because we didn't announce it publicly like we're supposed to. We weren't organized at that time. So bottom line is we're going to submit that report by April of 2022, which will be 1 year from our first meeting. Okay? Any questions? Our guest from the TBI?
Are we doing the reports from leadership from the committees?
Yeah, we'll do it right now. All right. First, a report from the leadership of the Criminal Investigation Committee. Chairperson Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. My only update is that we've been working to secure, or actually just request, the outstanding after-action reports that are still missing, and those, I think, are from the ATF, FBI, the Marshals, Tennessee Highway Patrol, and TBI. And we are getting assistance from our legal counsel to send out letters to request those. Not right now.
There you go. Right now, what we've done is we created in our committee a spreadsheet to help us look at 3 different things or 4 different things category. First, the response, the respondent, whether they were public and private. Then the nature of their response, whether it was rescue or investigation or both. Then the documentation of the after-action reports, and then the timeline from when they started until they've concluded. Now, right now, with the spreadsheet, we've determined there's 37 entities and 15 so far who's submitted an after-action report. But in our brief committee meeting, we realized that there's some of these entities that overlap. And so what we'll be doing is reading through and seeing which of these 37 entities are relevant to this investigation, and we'll make those recommendations to further look into those, and those that are, we'll send those on. So we have 37 now, but they could dwindle down to even smaller as we continue our work.
Very good. Any requests or questions of the commission?
Not at this moment.
All right. Anybody have any requests or questions from the commission regarding the rolling nature of the first 2 committees? Back to the 3rd committee.
No, and just so everyone knows, we'll send out the updated spreadsheet, and it might also assist you as you looking at these things that we outlined and save you on the time. So it'll be online.
Thank you very much. Now, at this time, I would like to welcome our guests from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Thank you very much for coming today. We really look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully we can learn generally what your role was in the 2020 bombing, but also of a particular nature is the TBI Fusion Center, which I'm pretty familiar with, but we'd like the first-hand report. I'm going to have our Secretary, Investigator Quinn, introduce each of the speakers who are here today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you, Chairman. It is my honor to present and introduce to you TBI Director David Roush, TBI Deputy Director Brad Nealon, TBI Assistant Director Rich Littlehale, TBI Special Agent in Charge, Alicia Rutherford, and TBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Caleb Utterback. These are all great friends of mine, and I could not be more pleased that they're here to present TBI's interaction during the Christmas Day bombing. And so I'll turn it over to you, Director Roush.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you to share a little bit about TBI's role in the incident on Christmas Day, as well as the overall and overarching role of our Fusion Center and what Fusion does. So I'll give a little bit of information in terms of the Christmas incident and our involvement, and then I'll let some of my other team here talk more about the Fusion Center and its specific role. While I certainly am very aware of the operation, I think it comes better from those who do it on the ground every day. And so in terms of the Christmas Day bombing, TBI's initial response was based, obviously, once the information was made, once we were made aware of the incident. Our special agent in charge at the time of our criminal investigation division reported immediately to the scene to offer any assistance that TBI could provide. We additionally had one of our canines that works on in our fire services section, investigative section, to come down as well to provide some support to determine if there is a way to, discover if there were any other potential secondary devices at the scene. And so those were our initial response to the incident. As the day unfolded and information started becoming more clear about what potentially had happened, our team then became more engaged in a number of areas. Our Fusion Center, obviously, the analysts started looking to information to determine if there's anything they could find in open source, identifying the potential of what may have happened. There was obviously a response of our criminal investigative division in support of those who were on scene, trying to determine who was going to take responsibility quickly. The FBI reached out. I talked to the special agent in charge within probably a couple of hours of the initial bombing, and he made me aware that they were going to predicate a case and open and take lead on the incident, and at that time we had already had sent our air asset to the scene at the request of the ATF. They had asked us to fly over the scene to get some aerial view for them, and so we had already sent our fixed wing air asset to do that. We'd also been asked about the potential of using drones. Unfortunately, at that time, our program was not as robust, and so what we learned was that those were not a good operational use for us, and so we were unable to really use those at the time. But our fixed wing did a great job of getting a great view from above of the scene for ATF and for FBI. Shortly later in the day, we started working more toward kind of the coordinated effort of getting things, detailed in terms of where and what resources were needed. We provided assistance with THP on trying to determine, what the vehicle was and who the vehicle belonged to. I mean, we knew it was an RV, but who it belonged to, there was a lot of effort put into trying to see if we could use some of our techniques from our lab. So we had some scientists come down onto the scene to see if they could apply some of those techniques to identify numbers from some of the parts that were strewn about. many of those techniques, they were having a hard time getting full numbers in that. As the time went on, I think into day two, there was some conversation, and well, I'm trying to think, it may have been that evening, actually, the conversation took place regarding a potential suspect, and there were samples being taken at the scene. And so when we had conversation with FBI about who could potentially do DNA matches, our time frame, our scientists said, I think we told them we could do it in 8 hours. They said it would take them 12, and so they went with our folks. And so our team went to the recovered some of the potential DNA sample from the potential suspect's vehicle. I know we collected a baseball cap and some other evidence, a glove, I think, from his former vehicle that he had given away. And so we had that information, and we went with some of the tissue that was found at the scene, and our scientists worked diligently through the night. Somewhere after the midnight hour, they were able to do a confirmative match, and provided that information to us and to the FBI. The next morning at the briefing, we had a conversation about when that information should be released. I know that there was the importance of that was that it gave us kind of the confirmation that we were dealing with this sole individual, and then the focus could be laid on that individual. Throughout that, at that point, all of us started searching our databases to determine if this individual was someone that was, as we say, on the radar. And as I stated to the media that morning, when asked, we did not have him on the radar at the TBI. We had no inquiries into him and whatsoever at our facility, either in Fusion or in any of our criminal investigative files. And so once the FBI confirmed, a few hours after the FBI confirmed the familial DNA that they had taken a sample of, that they had sent to Quantico. When that was confirmed, then the information was released in the press release that we did. From that point forward, our team worked hand in hand. Our criminal intelligence unit was working on the technical side directly with FBI. On going through the volumes of potential evidence that the suspect had left behind, and a number of electronic means and those types of pieces. So they were working closely at the direction of the FBI, working with their team. And then our criminal investigators were out doing interviews they sent out teams of interviewers. So it was a very collaborative work product. We went out, there was usually an agent from the FBI, one of our agents, ATF agent, and I think potentially someone from Metro was even there with them during the interviews. And so there was a collaborative effort of interviews where we were interviewing potential witnesses and gathering further information about the potential suspect, the individual identified. And so that was our effort. Obviously, our leadership team was very engaged and throughout. We were at the briefings. We were getting the information in real time. It was, quite frankly, for me, it was a very impressive operation in terms of information sharing. Pretty unprecedented, in my opinion, and in my 32 years of law enforcement experience. It was an unprecedented sharing event where sensitive information was being shared openly in the room with all of the partners present. And so I think that was probably, as we walked away from it, was very impressed with that being the takeaway that we had, was that there was, and even when information was leaking, after, and sometimes even before it was stated out loud in the room, media sources were reporting information that we were either hearing or getting, had just heard. And so even with that, the FBI and the ATF didn't step back in their briefings. They continued to share the information openly. And so I thought that was quite impressive because the natural response for law enforcement is when information's leaking is to stop the flow. And so they did not do that. They kept providing the briefings and trusting those in the room. To try as best we could to keep a lid on it until it was formally briefed out in the public. That's kind of the role that TBI took in this. So we had a number of different pieces of the Bureau involved. Clearly our leadership, our Fusion Center, our analysts, our investigators from Criminal Investigation Division, our air asset, our intelligence unit. So there were a number of pieces involved in the active involvement. We had, our teams that are assigned to the Joint Terrorism Task Force were involved. Our teams assigned to the ATF were involved. So they were directly engaged and involved as well. Again, our K9 asset in town was being utilized, and so we had a number of assets that we provided, and clearly the spirit of the event was, whatever you need, just ask, and it's there. And that was from the feds all the way to Metro that was being provided.
Thank you, Director.
So I'll turn it over to Assistant Director Little Health or to Special Agent in Charge Rutherford on in terms of describing the Fusion Center's role and address any of those issues.
Thank you, Director. I think we might start just to organize as best we can. So SAC Rutherford might talk a little bit about the Fusion Center 101 that we talked about, the nature of the network and so forth. And then I can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we specifically saw around Fusion Center engagement during the response, because I was here for that, and then we can take questions, obviously, or address any specifics that y'all are interested in.
The center's role. So the center was created in the wake of 9/11, and it's designed to create better communication between state and local law enforcement. There
we go.
All right, are we back in business? There we go.
I've been told by the expert that when the light is blinking red, that's bad. When the light is steady red, that's good.
Okay.
And the only way we can use it from blinking red is right here.
Okay. Well, did you all hear me from the beginning, or do I need to start over? I'll be more than happy to. Will do. So again, the Fusion Center, of course, was created in the wake of 9/11, and so it was created to create better communication between state and local law enforcement as it relates to intelligence gathering. And so the Tennessee Fusion Center, of course, is a part of 80 fusion centers, and it is recognized by the Federal Homeland Security. Also, the Tennessee Fusion Center is the only co-directed fusion center in the country. And with that being co-directed, it means that there is the TBI side, and there's also the Department of Safety, Homeland Security. And so the TFC's goal, of course, even though we're co-directed, is one. And so the goal is to prevent and apprehend and respond to criminal and terrorist activity. The TFC includes reps from the FBI, Homeland Security, Department of Correction, TBI, as well as safety. The TBI Tennessee Fusion Center is also an all hazards, all crime center. And what that means is its operations are not limited to just threats of terrorism. It means that we gather and disseminate information on major disasters. And so, for example, as it relates to the tornadoes that took place, there were analysts that were assigned to respond to give analytical support as it related to the victims that may have been missing as it relates to the tornadoes. Also, Each side of the center also does have a specific focus. And so what that means is sometimes there is overlap, but each side has a specific focus, and we come together as it relates to the intelligence sharing of information. So the TBI side of the center, which is housed within the TBI Criminal Intelligence Unit, it provides support to the TBI agents for criminal investigations. It is also responsible for the Amber Alert, the Silver Alert, the Blue Alert, the Sex Offender Registry, just to name a few. And we also communicate with local partners as it relates to specific requests from local law enforcement. And at this point, I will turn it over back to Assistant Director Littlehale, and if you all have any other further questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. So just to pick up where we stopped, if you think of the two sides of the center, and then you think about what we were responding to, obviously our partners on the state homeland side of the center were right beside us in all of the command posts and the briefings and that sort of thing. They were focused on the sort of protective aspects, the terrorism aspects of the impact of the situation. On the criminal intelligence unit side, we are responding to specific requests for information or support. So if TBI criminal investigators, as the director said, were going out and conducting interviews and they wanted to know, hey, we're going to this house to talk to this person, can you give us specific information about what that person, whether that person is on the radar, as the director said, whether that person has been previously known to us, and those sorts of specific requests for information. Again, there is certainly overlap, and if the criminal intelligence unit side of the center comes across information that has a direct life safety impact, of course, we're going to disseminate that information. We're going to call our partners. But our focus generally in a situation like this is on responding to requests for information and support from both our own investigators and the law enforcement community generally. And that extends from the top to the bottom, from side to side. Like, so any, smallest department to largest department, federal agencies, other state agencies, and so forth. We will respond to any request for investigative support. We have an adjacent unit within the Technology and Innovation Division called Technical Services that, as the director said, has specialists in digital forensics, communications intelligence, and those sorts of things. Many of those folks are FBI Joint Cybercrime Task Force officers, which means they carry a federal commission and work hand in hand with the FBI. So that was a natural partnership. They were engaged to assist in whatever way they could assist, processing evidence or chasing social media leads or whatever the situation called for. Within the Criminal Intelligence Unit chain of command, there are TBI special agents assigned to both the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the FBI Violent Crime Task Force. So, of course, those specialist agents were very much in the heart of things because those task forces, those FBI squads were directly engaged. And that was certainly beneficial for us. All of those partnerships really laid the groundwork for the exemplary cooperation that the director talked about. So I will stop there because I want to be responsive to y'all's interests and needs. Hope that gives you some framework about TBI's role and then the Criminal Intelligence Unit specifically in the Fusion Center. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other presenters from TBI at this minute?
I think I'll take care of it.
Well, the red light is blinking, so I'm going to try to mute. One time. There you go. I have one question, then I will turn it over to the other members of the commission. I was just because I've got a little bit north of 45 years of experience in the area of criminal law, I can say this. I'm just looking at the crowd, and maybe with one exception, you probably got about close to 100 years of criminal experience sitting at the table right there. Based on what I've heard anecdotally, and I think, Director, you talked about it just a little bit, and I understand this business about information not being shared. Have you, in a scale, say a 1 to 10, 10 being great or quintessential, 1 being none, on a scale of 1 to 10, was the communication effort between the Department of Justice, the state of Tennessee, not only the TBI, but also the Department of Safety, Metro Nashville law enforcement, and city law enforcement or county law enforcement or anybody in law enforcement, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did it rate?
For this event?
Yes.
I put it at 10.
Thank you. And what was the time frame generally of the beginning of the criminal investigation until you made a determination as to whatever the conclusion was, which we'll get to in just a second?
So, so I think the time frame in terms of the confidence that we were on track would have been somewhere around the 24 to 32 hours into the incident, that I think that we were on track in terms of having a pretty good feel of what happened. And then it was really, I think the investigative function was to determine, are there any other potential co-conspirators or any other potential targets that we are unaware of. And so a lot of that was in play. And so I think from 6:35, I think was the time of the first phone call till what was known as the conclusion. I think there was probably a couple of months before we got there. And that was with, waiting on complete analysis at the FBI lab on a number of the pieces of evidence that were collected at the scene, and their attempt to determine what the makeup of the explosive device, which I think was inconclusive, as I recall, and it was because there was so much stuff in that vehicle. It was hard for them to hone in on a specific type of device. There were a number of components that would normally be seen in different scenes, a number of components all in that one vehicle. And so it was hard for them to say that it was TTP or it was, some other form of explosive. And so because they had so many different pieces of evidence that they analyzed. And so both ATF and FBI, I think they concluded, if I recall, their conclusion was it's inconclusive in terms of that. But in terms of the comfort, I think, of the investigation was we were pretty comfortable within the 32-hour time frame of we were on track, on the right track with the individual. And then even with, one of the things that I thought was another great piece was the FBI's behavioral team that was on scene helping analyze information we were getting. Really was impactful because it gave us a pretty clear picture of what we were dealing with in terms of the individual. And so as bizarre as some of the information we were hearing was, it started to make sense. And it really kind of, I think that's where we sat back and said, this doesn't have an indication of a terrorism nexus. It really became an indication of a public suicide, is what we ultimately all agreed that we were seeing. And so, and that was, and I think again the importance of the connection of the DNA gave us an immediate opportunity to focus the investigation, because up till that point we were still unsure of how many potential individuals were involved and what was the motive and what was the motivation. And while we won't have that clear ever, I think, because obviously the actor is gone, so we'll never know the real intent but we can, I think we got a pretty good feel from what the evidence provided us.
We all know that motive is never involved in criminal law, but every jury that I've seen and every person in the public wants to know what somebody's motive was. Do you have an idea of what and I'm assuming we're talking about one defendant, is that correct? One defendant, no conspiracy?
Right.
All right. Do you have an idea, doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt, it can be by a preponderance, of what the defendant's motive was?
So, and I know it's been reported, and there's been a lot of discussion, but we believe that the individual had a fixation on a belief that there were these individuals that he would describe as lizard people coming into our universe, coming to Earth, going through Switch, which is what was at that location, one of the pieces of the operation of AT&T's building, but going through switches to become human, and then coming to take over our government. And so that was, this lizard people theory is what he was acting on, as we believe. That's, all the information that I've heard and been briefed on and seen, my belief is that he was working on this ideation, that these lizard people were making their
Are you saying lizard people?
Lizard people, yes. That they were making their move to take over. And he, as best we can tell, not completely sure, but we believe that he felt he was doing a service of taking out the switch. Is the motivation, is what we think, based on, again, on the information best that we have at this point. That would be, a plausible explanation, I guess, as you look at his writings and what he was espousing to others. And we do know that he had some health issues, and so that led probably to his final decision that he was going to, do something good, if you will, before he left this earth, and that was his motivation, and he clearly, by all of the other aspects, he didn't want to harm anyone else. And that's why the warnings were given, and so it again appears to be a very public suicide with a motivation to stop the lizard people from transforming.
Other questions by members of the commission?
Director, good morning, and thank you all for taking your time to meet with this commission. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what you just told us, but with that said, though, everything you said from the beginning of the time of the initial response until now, I take it that what I'm hearing from you all serve both as respondent and investigation. And what I'm tasked to do on this part of the commission is to look at the after-action reports and compile a list. Have you all submitted that after-action? And if so, could you make sure that we get that after-action report? Because everything you told us is really good right now. It's giving a timeline of everything you're saying.
Yeah. So what's interesting, as the nature of the business of the TBI, we are an investigative support agency, right? So our role in these types of things are to support our partners, federal, state, local, and because that's our everyday natural role, we do not do after actions on our investigations unless it's something that we have the lead in and we're responsible for. So we don't have a formal AAR. We have not completed one, our information has been included we sat down with the FBI, and so our information's included in their after action. All of our team had sat down with their team, and so what we did was included in their overall after action.
Yes, sir. And everything that you did state, you've also identified other agencies, so we'll follow up with the FBI, I guess, to get everything from them. And then the other thing, you talked about the cohesiveness and the cooperation, and you rated that on a 10. Was there any other lessons that from your staff or you that you could recommend going forward that just would lead us as giving us sort of a compass and directing us so we could be efficient in our work here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think, and this is, we've had some conversations with our partners. I think one of the things we all recognize, well, there were a couple of lessons learned, if you will. One was the importance of building relationships early on. Right, so many of these players, the leaders that were engaged, up to and including the chief, were brand new. Right, so chief was new. The SAC from the Memphis office was new. The SAC from the ATF was new. And so, but the good news is that they had we'd all been engaged at some point prior to this incident, right? And that's either through direct outreach or through meetings that we had attended, either with the Chiefs Association or with Sheriff's Association. But we had all had an opportunity to meet, to exchange our phone numbers, and which was critical that day. And so that information, the importance of having those immediate conversations, I think was critical. We all realized that, it would have been really tough to show up on Christmas Day and trying to say, hey, hi, I'm Director Rauch with the TBI. Who are you? Right? It would have been difficult. I think that was one takeaway. Number two was when we all stepped into the room at the Joint Command Post, our teams saw that we knew each other. We shaked hands and hugged, and so they all recognized that there was a relationship, right? And I think that immediately lowered that tone of, do I trust them or not? Because we had agents with the FBI come in from all over the U.S. that came in, and so when they see their leadership coming in and being that close, I think it helped them kind of say, this is going to be okay, right? They didn't have to put the wall up of, do I trust this person or not? They just let it with blind trust, recognizing that the leadership was in trusting relationship. And so that, I think, was another great takeaway is the importance of leadership actions when the teams are all presented together. And then, the biggest challenge came, of course, with communications. And there's not in my tenure, not quite as extenuous, but in my tenure, communication's always an issue. Always. That I've never done an after action in my career that we didn't mention communication, right? However, our communication was hampered because of the physical structure, right? And we learned some lessons. We learned lessons about assuring that you have some diverse resources, the ability to utilize other forms of communication. Having more than one network available was a critical lesson. Diversifying your network. But, as we all have been working, trying to figure out what the best way of doing communication, there's been this movement to kind of hone in on one type of response. And we've learned on that day that you got to have more than one. And we were fortunate to have that. Matter of fact, I have two separate phones on two separate networks. One worked, one didn't. And so it was advantageous for me, so that I was able to communicate with the team. And so I think that's another very valuable lesson we had was the diversification of resources.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me? And thank you all for being here today to address this committee and answer questions. I'm Jennifer Gamble, council member, Metro Nashville council member. You mentioned that that you all assisted with the investigation and providing air asset coverage, and that you didn't have your drone program up and running in order to use that. There was in the fire department's AAR report, they mentioned that the need for drones. Do you see that as something that could possibly help improve investigative techniques going forward, something that we should look at locally?
Yeah, absolutely. There's great advantage. We at the time we had drones. Unfortunately, they were when we attempted to utilize them for this, they were not operational, and so we learned a lesson. We've since replaced them all, and our system is back up and running, and it's robust. And so we have the support, obviously, throughout the state. But I would tell you, yes, for local governments who have the ability and the resources, I think it's a critical piece of the operation. I think you absolutely, in today's nature of what we do, I think that opportunity to have that ability to see what's going on from above is absolutely critical. The ATF, as a matter of fact, one of the things they showed us when we were on scene, well, maybe in the FBI actually. I believe it was the FBI. They had a team that was collecting evidence at the scene, and they brought their technology, and I had the opportunity to go in their trailer and look at how they were piecing this all together. And ultimately, they have a video of the entire scene that they can show you even inside of buildings, 360 degrees, where you can look and interact and see. Not only you can see the damage that was caused, you can see, it provides potential insight into evidence. And so it was pretty impressive. And so absolutely, I think a robust system is absolutely necessary.
Secretary Quinn.
Following up on Councilmember Gamble's question, I'm assuming that drone coverage is going to be less expensive than a fixed wing asset?
Much less. Yes. Yeah. They are much less, and even licensing and all of that. It's a much less expense. Yeah. And and again, for a municipality, it makes more sense than having a fixed wing.
I assume they also can go places a fixed wing asset could not.
Absolutely.
And gain perspective potentially that.
Sure, you can take them inside of buildings, right? And so that's another advantage to them is you're able to, because they have different size of these drone technologies. They are as small as a baseball, or as large as I've seen some of them that have some pretty good size to them, the size of a small plane. But yeah, so you have diversity in the ability to get what you need and place them where you would find them advantageous.
Is there an officer safety component that would be applicable to a drone?
There is a safety component that is involved, and so I think that's obviously part of your protocol. Is there is a safety component. They do not recommend you fly them over large crowds. At certain spaces. So you have to be careful with that. They are used, however, for monitoring large crowds if necessary. The key to that is keeping it in an area where there is a drop zone. If for some reason something happened with the connections. Although most of the new technology is even if there's a connection issue, it is programmed to return to its home base. And so it does that. So you don't, they're not falling out of the sky, if you will. And even if the battery starts to go down, it doesn't just stop and fall. It recognizes and then it returns to its base to be able to protect that. So it's, outside of typical human error, they're generally pretty safe.
I'm thinking like sending it into a crumbling building to look for survivors, or in Waverly, for instance, to look in places you can't physically get to.
Absolutely. And active shooting, search and recovery, those types of situations are ideal for utilization, and it is an officer safety piece at that point where it protects officers, where you can send it in and it could be your eyes and ears and even voice to give command. So yeah, they have great advantage in those types of tactical situations.
I had another follow-up question that you touched on a little bit. Of course, nobody could have conceived of the kind of trickle-down failure that happened with AT&T, and so I'm wondering if you could talk just generally about your thoughts on resiliency and redundancy as it relates to IT infrastructure or telephony.
Yeah, absolutely. So my expert is beside me here, but I'll hit it on a high level, and he can certainly get as deep in the weeds as you want to discuss. So he knows it better than anyone. But I can tell you that what we did learn is again the importance of having diversity in your technology and your communications abilities. And the recognition that there's a need to know where these single points of failure, if you will, exist, right? And so I think that was another thing that was learned during this is understanding that there are these nondescript locations. Now, the great thing here is local law enforcement knew. They were very aware. It's been seen on the video of the officer saying, "Hey, isn't that the AT&T thing, right?" And so it was very well known that was a very important piece of the puzzle. And now, I don't know that any of us had any idea how extensive the reach was. I think we knew that it had capability of stopping some things, but I don't think we knew how extensive that reach was until it happened. And so it did open our eyes. And I think it's also opened the industry to understand that they've got to protect those types of things from happening. And as I understand in our conversations, even with AT&T, have been that they've already set in place protections to keep that from being a future issue with some of their piece. And of course, it's the responsibility of our private enterprises to understand that as well, and to take those proper actions to protect networks and infrastructure. And so, again, in terms of specifics and any detail or anything else that I missed that I know he knows, I'll pitch to Rich.
No, Director, that was great. So I'll just keep it high level because if I get too far down in the weeds, I get the hook. So the short answer is fairly intuitive, right? Which is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? We can all imagine that's true. The challenge that becomes we all work in the public safety space, in our case, in government space, and paying for extra things that don't get used all the time becomes a challenge because we have limited resources. And so the trick is finding that balance between, are we paying for extra circuits from diverse paths that we are not using all the time, and are we able to sustain that? Or are there cheaper solutions? Are there ways to buy half of your bandwidth from two different sources, but load balance those two different sources in a way that you're actually just paying for what you're using all the time, but if half of it goes away, then you still have the other half. Making sure that you have communication strategies that involve cellular, that involve cloud, that involve hard connections, that Wi-Fi, all of these different paths. So the good news is that it's exciting times for the capabilities there. Nothing's cheap in this world, but there are certainly some options out there as you look that will allow you to accomplish the mission at an achievable cost. And that's something that we certainly took as a lesson from this. And we are trying to share that message with our partners because we all need to be able to talk to each other and accomplish the mission. When something bad happens, all the more reason, right? It's precisely when you are most likely to be in jeopardy because something bad has happened that these networks can be impacted. So this is an area that certainly bears attention, and we're doing our best to give it all the attention we can.
Other questions? I do. I've got a question or a request. I understand that the communication ability on this particular incident was a 10 out of a 10. I understand from my experience in law enforcement how that's not necessarily the case in all events. I don't know the status of the after-action reports to the various committees. We have basically two committees that are working on that. One is a criminal investigation committee, and then the second committee is a bombing and responses committee. I don't know if we're having any difficulty in getting after-action reports from the lead agencies of those particular response teams. But if we are, could I ask for the TBI's help in being able to communicate with your colleagues to give us some after-action reports if we have any difficulty getting those?
Mr. Chair, that's what we do. So we'd be more than happy to assist.
And possibly Councilwoman Gamble may be able to reflect on that. Have we gotten after-action reports from most folks?
We have currently just one from the Nashville Fire Department and the Emergency Management Office. So we have not received our after-action review reports from other partner agencies, FBI. The TBI says theirs is included in the FBI. Also, Tennessee Highway Safety, Tennessee Homeland Security, and the ATF are others that may be included in the FBI report. So I guess we have sent out letters, and I think the chairman of our Criminal Investigative Committee has worked with our legal counsel to draft letters to send to those agencies to ask for those reports, and those are going out this week. And so hopefully before our next meeting, we will have those reports.
Well, we've got the government here, and they're willing to help, so.
I don't mind, actually. I'll make a phone call to make our partners aware that
we
the
assume
request
that
is
this
coming.
investigation is over.
Yes, sir.
It's been concluded, and they came up with a conclusion, which basically said that we're talking about one actor, and he was somewhat believed in lizards and all that kind of stuff. All right. But at any rate, there's really no reason for us to have any supremacy clause issues regarding after-action reports. All we're trying to do is to have all of our after-action reports submitted to our various committees no later than November, so that then we can put a draft report to the Metro Council by the first of the year, so that we can submit it within 1 year from the first meeting.
If I could also add, if you would add anything about lessons learned in that after-action review report, that would be very helpful for us in our work here.
What we're doing, Director, is we've established 3 committees. The first committee, we call it the Criminal Investigation Committee, which is obvious. That starts about 2019 when they first got a report that we may have an issue regarding this particular individual, through the bombing and until the investigation was complete. That obviously includes your folks and the FBI and various law enforcement. Then our second committee is the Bombing and Responses Committee, which would include some public agencies, but also would include a lot of private agencies and responsive teams. And then our third committee is lessons learned. And what I've asked them to do is the first two committees are going to have rolling reports. And when they have a completed after-action report, then they submit it to the third committee. The third committee, the Lessons Learned Committee, will then put together the final report. Hopefully, we can have that by the end of this year. The bottom line is this. If the first two committees need your help, we really would appreciate your communication ability.
Happy to do so.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the director, the Fusion team, and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation while they're here? Brenda. Miss Brenda.
Hi. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I have to ask a question. You mentioned wonderful communication between all your entities. This seemed to be so after the fact. Prior to this incident, you said you had no indication that there was anything with this individual that would put him on your radar, yet there was some investigation into his possibility of making a bomb by local authorities. Assumption then is that you did not know that. And if
Correct.
that is the case, why not, or would that just not have been the type of information that the Fusion Center would have gotten?
Yeah, so local, the way the Fusion Center works is we're a recipient of information, and so they would have had to make us aware. They would have had to reach out and request us to do a workup on the individual. And so that's one way. And then the other way is we push information out. So if we have knowledge of something, then we'd push it out to our local partners. In this case, they didn't feed us the information on this individual. They didn't ask us for a workup on this individual. And that's not uncommon. There's nothing untoward about that. That's in the daily business of law enforcement. It probably that, and the other part here is with large law enforcement organizations, they have a lot of the ability themselves. And so, they can do the same thing my Fusion Center does, right? I know Metro Nashville has a very robust intelligence unit. And so they have the ability to do that type of behavior or that type of analysis themselves. And so, they would not, I would think, not normally on what I know about this previous contact, that would not have risen to the level of reaching out to us on a normal basis based on the publicly aware information that I have on it in those conversations. Now, had they reached out to us, obviously we would have done a workup. When we checked our files, that was, matter of fact, I made the phone call to the assistant director and said, do we know anything about this guy? And he checked with our team, and there was nothing in our files on the individual. We had nothing. So it was not there.
So what are the type of things that would trigger you knowing about it?
Again, it's really up to local law enforcement to, if they're involved in something that they feel they don't have the information or the ability to gather the information, then they would raise it to our Fusion Center. And so it could be, any number of things. If they have somebody that they suspect is, somebody that there may be some type of concern about, not only locally, but throughout the region or throughout the state or nationally. We get those types of calls. And so, it's really that on-the-ground effort by either the responding officer or the next level up of investigator to raise that to us. And so that's really, and they're all very aware. All agencies in the state are aware of what the capabilities of Fusion are. And so it's really we're a center, again, our main role at TBI is support, and everybody is aware of that, and all of our partners are aware of that. And so we're a resource, and we're a resource that they can utilize as they need. And so if it's not raised to us, then, they had their reasoning for believing that they had the ability to handle what they had.
Director, TBI, Fusion Center, colleagues, thank you very much for an informative overview of not only the bombing but also the Fusion Center. We appreciate you. We shall appreciate your help if we need you. You do a good job. Thank you so much. Our next meeting, being no more questions, our next meeting will be September the 28th. Is there a problem about having any committee meetings at 9 o'clock?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, we can have committee meetings at 9 o'clock, the regular commission meeting at 10 o'clock on September the 28th. Is there anything further? Then we are adjourned until 0900 on September the 28th, 2021. Thank you very much again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.